Hey guys, Mike here. So, but what a day in the market and what a roller coaster of a day. We were red, we were green, we were red, we were green. Oh boy, one of those types of days, another low volume type of day, especially in the indexes. But again, it was all about what? Nvidia, semiconductors, large caps, but especially the semiconductors. And oh boy, was Nvidia just on a roll. To see a stock that is almost $3 trillion, almost go 8% for the day, for one day, and it's not an earnings, it's not an event day or anything. That's an amazing thing. And I'm going to spend a lot of time on NVIDIA in this video, and so we'll talk about that along with some other things, but it's obvious you have two different kind of markets happening right now, right? And we're going to go into the indexes so you'll know what I'm talking about. But when you look, the NASDAQ composite hit 17,000 for the first time here, guys. It's an amazing thing. But you can see we got this midline right here, and we were at the end of the day finally able to push up over this with a last push, and so we did close above that. And when you're looking at this right here, like the RSI and stuff, again, you're seeing basically bearish divergence really, because you got higher highs up there, lower highs down here. Again, that can carry out for a long time. But the fact on the daily we closed above that midline right there in this channel is bullish. We'll see if we can hold it and continue to push higher. Because again, we're not in overbought territory, so it still has plenty of room to run. It can stay overbought for a long time if we actually get there. And again, we'll talk about the other indexes, which are showing a totally different thing. But you can see the volume. I mean, when you compare this volume, it has dropped off massively. Of course, we're in a short week this week. Obviously running into a holiday from last week. But boy, it really has. I'm going to push the volume to the bottom so I can expand this for you. You can just clearly see that on the index especially, it's just very low volume compared to what was happening. You pull up NVIDIA though, NVIDIA volume is just going through the roof, right? Tons of volume to push that up. And it was big money helping push that up. I mean, retail investors are not pushing an $1,100 stock or whatever it is right now up like that. So they're definitely still buying into this one. And that normally is what happens. When you announce a stock split, the stocks push up. Okay, I mean, I'm doing a whole video Thursday for members on that and understanding, will it crash after the stock split? Why are they going after stock splits? If they do, all that good stuff. And so it's not abnormal or anything. But one thing that was interesting today was the 10-year. I mean, it just kept ramping up. The manufacturing news was terrible, which is, you wouldn't think that the yield would actually go up, right? You would think if it was strong, like Dallas Fed manufacturing was absolutely horrific. And, but this thing is starting to try to push its way back up into this channel, got rejected right at the edge of the channel. We did have some bond or note issuance today, but they were very like 2-year, 5-year, that kind of stuff. But just to show you, what I'm talking about, how the 10-year, if we go over here and we pull up IWM, for example, you can see what was red. Well, IWM, right? It went down today. Okay, so why? What's it been doing? It's been going down ever since the 10-year has been pushing up. But you pull up the Qs, and it's a totally different picture. Why is it different? Because one, those are hiding places, right? As the yield's going up, these are cash cows. These are making all kinds of money. Look at that. Ever since the 10-year has been pushing up, even when it's coming down or pushing up, the Qs are still going up. Okay. What is not going up? IWM, the Dow Jones transportations. But you can see clearly it's a two-pony race, right? You got your semiconductors, and then your large caps, your Apple, your Microsoft, Netflix, Meta, those kind of stocks, right? Because remember, they make money because they have so much cash on hand, billions upon billions. They're actually making money off higher interest rates. You see the Dow. What's it been doing? Since the Q's been just raging, this thing has been heading straight south, right? Almost down 4%, coming into a support area, which it needs to hold right here, so you might get the bounce. But when the 10-year is going up, that's a problem. When the 10-year is going down, what do you see? A huge run up in the Dow, setting all-time new highs and all that fun stuff, right? So it is rate sensitive with this stuff as well, right? The RSI below 50 now in the daily. That's usually never good. And so, we're going to get to see if that truly is more like it's not a true double top formation, but it looks very similar to it. That is for sure. And again, you see bearish divergence on the RSI on the daily for a long period of time, right? Where it was running up, and the RSI was not at all running up, okay? Then when you go to Dow Jones Transportation, well, obviously, once it rejected off that trend line, straight down we go. All right, again, RSI is below 50. And so, Dow Jones Transportation looks like a hot mess, needs a bounce. To me, it looks like it's almost trying to form a head and shoulders, right, on the daily right there. So let's see if we bounce up, get a right shoulder, and then just implode down. That's what I'm going to be looking for on this one. Doesn't mean it's going to happen or anything, but but it sure looks like that's what it's trying to form right there. When you go to Nvidia, this is the king, right? I'm gonna spend some time on Nvidia here. And again, it's in price discovery, right? So there's no resistance above it. And so when I drew this trend line, I mean, it goes way back, right? This trend line here, and you can see multiple rejections, right? That was the top. And so I thought it was going to hold for sure. We rejected right there. I believe that is in March right there. And when we go over, well, we were right going to come. I thought we were going to come into it today. Instead, we skipped right above it. The day opened up again. It's like a non-event day. There's no earnings today or anything like that. And it just gapped right on up. And when you see, again, almost $3 trillion market cap stock gap up like that is an amazing thing. But of course, it is pulling a Tesla, which I'll get into in just a minute. So we'll see if this trend line now becomes support, right? Like, what's the price target? Because the fibs I had on here, we've already blown right through that. I mean, it's unbelievable. But here's what's crazy. You know, people say, well, it's getting overbought, it's getting overstretched. I would agree it's getting overstretched. But understand, when it comes to RSI, it's almost useless on Nvidia in a way, because you see it can stay way overbought for weeks on end. It can get way up there, okay? As you see in the past, it's done in the past, even before this AI pump, it's done it. And so when it comes to some of these tech stocks, Nvidia being one of them, I mean, at one point in time, I think it was at 93 up there the last time we did this. And so it gets way, way up there and way overstretched. So you do get a decent pullback on it. But what's even crazier is when you pull up the stochastic RSI, where it's at right now in comparison with the RSI and where it has been normally. You see the stochastic isn't even over the 50 line, it isn't even over the midline, right? But look at what happened in the other times when it was way overbought. Stochastic was at the top, right? On every other instance, stochastic was already at the top. It was already over 80, okay? And so the fact that it hadn't even reached 50 yet, which you want between like 50 and 60 to really confirm that this thing's going to continue to push, that's what's crazy, which will let you know if they want to continue to push us up, they can. It has plenty of room to run on the RSI. It has plenty of room to run on that stochastic, right? And that's what's, in a way, scary for people who are short, I guess. You know, good luck to them. But also understand, you know, the 10 EMA is kind of key right here when it comes on the daily chart to Nvidia. You can see it's way overstretched, but you can see on these run-ups how close it stayed to it, right? And you see how far above it we are right now, which is why, you know, in the short term, do we need a sell down or at least a trade sideways and let this EMA catch up? Absolutely. You know, and we've had earnings where it's gapped up and it just kind of traded sideways, and then of course came down a little bit, and the EMA was able to catch back up and it would get a bounce or at least, you know, move up right up against it. But again, when I say I was pulling a Tesla, this is what I'm talking about. I can put in the Discord. Just millions upon millions of call sweeps shoving this up. This is what Tesla did all those times it would run up and do a stock split, right? They would just keep buying call sweeps, force the market makers to try to cover shorts. People would keep trying to short it, and they would have to cover, and you just get this crazy squeeze that you just don't think you can get. And that's what kept happening to Tesla for a long time. That's why it's not moving like it used to, right? Because Nvidia is the flavor of the last 2 years, really, right? But imagine, I mean, it was almost at 8% one time today, a $2.85 trillion stock. It's about getting close to passing Apple, so to be right behind Microsoft, right? And so, again, it is normal to run up into a stock split. The stock split is going to be right around the corner. You can see it at the bottom right there. So it'll be right around the corner. And again, we'll see what happens from there. We'll see, you know, again, I want to see if that trend line at the top is going to become support for it. Now, of course, it's pulling up what? All the other semis, right? AMD is a simple one. As long as it stays in this channel, we're bullish. Again, I told you in yesterday's video, I believe it was, you know, when we come up in this fair value gap, watch for it to sell back down or at least have a reaction down. Right now, it's going to sell down, but to not continue to go forward. And that's what happened. As soon as it got up in there, boom, started mitigating almost all of it. And then we ended up pulling back on it. So no surprise there at all. Again, at the top of that fair value gap is the top of the channel. So, you know, we can move up tomorrow, right? If we get to the top of that channel, you know, because that's when you look at the bottom of the channel. Last time we hit the bottom of the channel, what happened? We were coming in some fair value gaps that aligned and gave us a fair value gap going into the bottom of the channel. And so that makes for a great bounce, right? So same thing if we end up moving to the top of this channel. That's what we got to find out. If Nvidia pulls back, most likely these are too, because they've been on some crazy, crazy runs as of now. And then there's some other ones, you know, like Celsius. Celsius does not like $99. I mean, it had a huge red candle today. It just dumped big time. There was some news here, which I'll go into in just a second, but I don't think it was the news dump. It just hit 99 and sold down just like it did last time. Again, what happened? Came down to that trend line right below it, came into a fair value gap, and what happens? Sucks right back up. Had a big move at the end, right after 1 o'clock, around 7% move back up, but it was down massive today. All right, and so again, it does not like 99. Did that twice. You got this trend line right here, which we rejected off of multiple times. Can it turn into a support again? That's what we got to find out. Are we going to break down and come down to that next trend line, which is where it did on the last sell-off before it just exploded higher? This is a very low float stock, okay, very low float stock. And so, you know, it can move, and it moves really fast in both directions. Keep that in mind. Again, do I think it's a double top? I mean, no, because I'm not expecting that to play out at all. I mean, that would be crazy, crazy. But again, it just gives you an idea. Okay, well, maybe it comes down to this trend line or the support line right here if it continues to sell off. And what happened was there was a report came out right here just talking about how the growth has slowed, the sales growth that is, and the market share is going in the wrong directions. And this was on Benzinga, I believe it was. And so that pushed it down. You can see the report indicates that Celsius sales growth slowed 39% for the week ended May 18th. It further suggests that Celsius market share declined from 10.8 to 10.5, the most recent data we got. And so again, it got pummeled. All right, so let's see if it holds or continues to sell off on this one. And then when we go over to DraftKings, this is another one. Got some news come out, got pummeled today, gap down, was down over 10% at one point in time. But again, what happened to this one? Same thing. I tell you, man, you use fair value gaps. It came as fair value gap. What it do? Suck right back up, right? All it is a imbalance between buyers and sellers. It searches them out all day long, trying to grab liquidity on it, and you usually get reactions off probably 90–95% of them. And so this is something on different time frames to definitely look out. But you can see the news came out, and I was very surprised it dropped that much. But it says, you know, that Illinois is planning on increasing the tax on gambling to 40%, up from 15%, which is big. But again, I mean, it's one state, which kind of surprised me. But you know, it didn't take it well, sold off big time. And then when you go back over here, you can see the levels to look out for. Like if it continues to sell off, right there below, you can see around 32.97, then 35 is supposed to be support now, and then upwards of 50 is where it can go to. All right. Now, when you're looking at earnings, you're going to have a lot more retailers and some high beta stuff, right? So Abercrombie and Fitch, Chewy, Dick's, AutoZone. Then you got Salesforce, C3 AI, UiPath, Okta. And again, some of these are huge, huge moves. I mean, you got Abercrombie and Fitch sitting there around a 15% move. C3 AI is a huge move. Chewy's going to be a huge move. And then like Salesforce, around 7%. So not too much you can tell. I was just surprised about the retailers, right, being so big. But a lot of them are shorted heavily too. And then when you go into any kind of news, we got no red folder news, but more manufacturing data, which I assume is going to be terrible. The Beige Book, and then a couple FOMC members speaking, but no kind of news that shouldn't like rock the market or anything like that too bad. And when it comes to manufacturing, it's been horrible. I'm even going to just read this off to you. This is the Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index that came out, minus 19.4 versus minus 12.5 estimated, minus 14.5 was previous. New orders improved, but still in contraction. Shipments fell back into contractions. Hours worked fell farther into contraction. Wages and benefits still expanding. Employment moved farther into contraction. I mean, you look at the chart and you're like, oof. And that seems to be all about manufacturing. But again, we are 70% services. So manufacturing seems to be a mess. And it's just funny, you know, looking at what the Dow's doing, looking at what Dow Jones Transportation is doing, look what IWM's doing. And so it's just right now one market that can shift, but it's just one market, and that's the NASDAQ, right? And the Qs, right? And so that seems to be what's pushing. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when semis finally cool off, which they will, because they have to. I mean, you can only push them so far. But again, we'll see what happens on that. I mean, because you got a lot of, especially mega caps, coming into resistance right now, being overstretched, like I showed you on Nvidia. So, I mean, a pullback would be warranted. That would be for sure. But we'll see now that we've passed on the Qs, that midline, if it's able to turn that into support and actually bounce and continue to push higher. Because like Nvidia, looking at that RSI, looking at that stochastic, if that thing continues to push, it has room, right? I don't mean it's going straight up, because it definitely needs to come down and consolidate at some point in time at some level. But with that in stock split being right around the corner, you know, what are we, 8 days away or something like that? We'll see if they continue to push it up, because that's usually what you see all the time. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comments stuff. Appreciate all you guys watching. Hit the like and subscribe button on the way out, and I'll see you tomorrow.